If you're thinking about retiring in Oregon or Washington and you're not sure which one actually makes more financial sense for you, watch this video and you might get a little bit more clarity. I am not a financial advisor, I'm not a tax advisor, I'm merely a realtor laying the information out so you can make an informed decision. I help people just like you relocate here all the time, and this is one of those decisions that can cost you a lot if you get it wrong. Because this is where people mess up. They take a weekend trip, fall in love with a cute downtown, a waterfront, a view, or quiet neighborhood, and then they make a major retirement decision without really looking at all the numbers. And that is a mistake, because retirement is not just about where you want to live. It's about where your money goes further, where you can get the care you need, and what kind of lifestyle you can actually sustain long term. And Oregon and Washington are not the same. Washington gets attention because there is no state income tax. Oregon gets attention because there is no sales tax, and Oregon does not tax Social Security. Both sound great, but neither state is some perfect retirement loophole, and if you choose based on one headline instead of the full picture, you can make a very expensive mistake. So in this video, I'm breaking down taxes, cost of living, healthcare, lifestyle, and the best places to retire if you're looking in the Portland and Southwest Washington area. Let's get into it. First, let's talk about taxes because this is usually where the conversation starts. Washington's biggest advantage is obvious, no state income tax. And now with the new millionaire tax, things are changing a little bit. I have an extensive video talking only about taxes if you want to look into that. But we're just going to talk about what's going on right now. And yes, that matters. If you're retiring and living off pension income, IRA withdrawals, 401k income, or other retirement distributions, that can be a real advantage. But this is where people oversimplify the whole thing. Just because Washington has no state income tax does not automatically mean Washington is always cheaper. Washington still has sales tax, and depending on how you spend, that matters more than people think. So if you hear no income tax and immediately decide Washington wins, that is way too simplistic. Now let's look at Oregon. Oregon's big advantage is no general sales tax, and that is something that you feel constantly. Every time you shop, every time you furnish a home, every time you buy regular day-to-day items, that adds up. And Oregon also does not tax Social Security, which matters for a lot of retirees. But Oregon does tax many other forms of retirement income. So here is the reality. If a big part of your retirement plan is coming from taxable retirement withdrawals, Washington may look better. If Social Security is a major part of your income and you like the idea of no sales tax, Oregon starts to look a lot more appealing. So right away, there is no universal winner. It really depends on how your money is coming in and how you actually live. And that is the part people skip. Now let's talk about housing, because this is where retirement can quietly get more expensive than people expected. A lot of people think they are comparing states. Well, they're not. They're really comparing cities, because where you retire matters as much as which side of the river are you on. Some places are going to give you more convenience, some are going to give you more house for your money, and some are going to give you a more polished lifestyle. And some are going to give you a slower pace and better affordability. So instead of asking which state is cheaper, the smarter question is, which area gives me the best value for the kind of retirement I actually want? And that brings me to the locations I think matter the most in this conversation. For Washington, the strongest retirement picks, in my view, are Vancouver, Camas, Longview. And for Oregon, the strongest retirement picks, in my view again, are Portland, Salem, and Lake Oswego. Let's start with Washington. If you want the best overall balance, Vancouver is still the strongest all-around option for a lot of retirees. And the reason is simple. You get the Washington tax advantage of no state income tax, but you are still right next to Portland. So you still have access to major hospitals, the airport, specialists, restaurants, shopping, and all the daily conveniences that become more important as you get older. And that matters. Because retirement is not just about where you want to live today, it's about where your life is still easy 5 or 10 years from now. And Vancouver does a really good job of balancing those two things. Now, is Vancouver the cheapest option? No, but it may be the most balanced. And you are not giving up access, you are not moving way out, and you are still getting the Washington side of the tax equation. That is why Vancouver works for so many people. Camas, Washington. Now, if Vancouver feels a little too busy or you want something that feels more polished, quieter, a little more elevated, then Camas becomes a very strong option. Camas has a more refined feel, it has charm, it has community. It also has access to nature, and it still keeps you close to both Vancouver and Portland. So for retirees who want convenience but do not want to feel like they're in the middle of everything, Camas makes a lot of sense. This is not the budget pick. This is the pick for someone who wants more lifestyle, more peace, and a more high-end day-to-day experience while still staying connected. And for the right buyer, Camas is a great fit. Now let's go to Longview, Washington. If your priority is availability, Longview deserves a serious look. I would say Longview is the value play on the Washington side. It gives you a lower price point than Camas or much of Vancouver, while still giving you the Washington advantage of no state income tax. It is slower paced, it is more practical, and it is not trying to be glamorous. And that is exactly why it works for so many retirees. If your goal is to stretch your budget, simplify life, and avoid paying for prestige you do not care about, Longview can be a smart option. It is not the prettiest or the trendiest choice on this list, but retirement is not a beauty contest. Sometimes the right answer is the one that simply makes the most financial sense. Now let's move to Oregon. Portland deserves to be in this conversation for one reason above all: access. Access to major hospitals, access to specialists, access to airport, access to dining, arts, shopping, entertainment, and more going on day-to-day life. Now, Portland is not going to be the quietest option. It is not going to be the cheapest option. And for some retirees, that alone is enough to rule it out. But for others, especially people who want to stay active, connected, close to top-tier healthcare, Portland deserves a real consideration. If retirement for you does not mean slowing down completely, Portland can be a very strong fit. This is the choice for a retiree who wants convenience and access to more than peace and quiet. Now let's look at Salem, Oregon. Salem is the practical Oregon option. It does not always get the same buzz as some other places, but for retirees, Salem has a lot going for it. It is more affordable than many Portland areas, but still gives you the convenience of being in the real city with healthcare, shopping, and services close by. And this matters. It is also centrally located, which gives you flexibility. You are not too far from Portland, you are not too far from other parts of the Willamette Valley, and for a lot of retirees, that balance works really well. Salem is not flashy, it's not trying to impress anyone, but if you want Oregon and you want a more manageable cost structure without giving up convenience, Salem is a strong contender. Now let's go to Lake Oswego. If Salem is the practical pick, Lake Oswego is the lifestyle pick. Lake Oswego is for the retiree who wants a more polished, upscale experience on the Oregon side. Beautiful neighborhoods, strong amenities, shopping, dining, and close access to Portland area healthcare all add up to a very comfortable retirement lifestyle. But let's be honest, Lake Oswego is not the affordable option. So if your goal is to cut costs as much as possible, this is probably not where you land. But if your goal is to stay in Oregon and enjoy the more elevated lifestyle with strong convenience and a very livable day-to-day experience, one of the strongest options in the area. So now let's simplify the whole thing. If your top priority is tax efficiency on retirement income, Washington usually has the edge. If your top priority is no sales tax and staying in Oregon, Oregon stays very competitive. If your top priority is affordability, I would look more seriously at Longview and Salem. If your priority is access to top healthcare, culture, and convenience, Portland becomes a very important option. If your top priority is a more polished Washington lifestyle, I would look closely at Camas. And if your priority is a more upscale Oregon lifestyle, then Lake Oswego is going to stand out. So which state is actually better for retirement? Here is the honest answer. There is no blanket winner. The better state depends on your income sources, your spending habits, your budget, your healthcare needs, and the kind of lifestyle you want. That is the real answer. Now, if you force me to pick the best overall place to retire out of the areas we talked about, I would still say Vancouver, Washington is probably the strongest all-around choice for a lot of people. And that comes down to balance. You get the Washington tax advantage, you stay close to Portland's hospital and airport, you have a lot of housing options, and you still give yourself flexibility as your needs change. That combination is hard to beat. Now, if affordability is the main goal, I would look harder at Longview and Kelso area or Salem. If lifestyle is the main goal, I would look harder at Camas and Lake Oswego. If access to healthcare amenities and city convenience matters more than peace and quiet, then Portland becomes a very strong contender. But if you want the best overall mix of convenience, taxes, access to services, and long-term practicality, Vancouver is still the one I would put at the top of many retirees. And that is really the point of this whole video. Do not choose based on headlines. Do not choose based on one weekend trip. And definitely do not choose based on what sounds good in theory. Choose based on what actually works for your retirement. Because the wrong choice can cost you every single year. And the right choice can make retirement a whole lot easier. Now, if you're trying to decide between retiring in Oregon or Washington and you want help figuring which areas actually make sense for your budget, your lifestyle, and your long-term goals, reach out to me. I help people just like you relocate all the time, and I would love to help you make the right move. My contact information is in the description below, and if you found this video helpful, subscribe to the channel because I talk about living in Portland and Southwest Washington. I talk about relocation, real estate, and what people really need to know before they make a move.